Oh na 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 na. Bam bam. Oh na 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 na. Bam bam. Oh na 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 na. Bam bam. Oh na 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 na. Big it up. Oh na 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 na. Big it up. Oh na 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 na. Bam bam. Bir bam bam bir bam bir de. Bir bam bam. Bir bam bir de. Bir bam bam bir bam bam bir bam bir de. Bir bam bam. Bir bam bir bam 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 bam. Bir bam bir de.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to Home and Away Jamaica, where we connect Jamaica and the diaspora. I'm Robert Taylor, attorney at law with Taylor Law, and today with me is Stacey Ann Salmon, attorney at law, managing partner of Taylor Law. You've met, if you've watched some of our programs, Stacey give some legal input. And we also have our special guest this morning, Mr. Harvey Brown. Harvey is based in Canada, but has some questions as it relates to property in Jamaica. So we want to welcome Harvey to our show this morning. Harvey, welcome.
Thank you. Well, the journey started in 1959 when my grandfather passed away, and he left a will. And the will divided 3.5 acres into 4.5 acres.
Wow.
Which is, yeah. So that was the main start of the issue. The second start of the issue is that it was my father's contention that he had paid for that land. And it was his land and not his father's land to be divided amongst his siblings. Fast forward 1989, before 1989, my father took sick and had to abandon his challenge of the will. And then he died in 89. I come into the scene where I'm trying to resolve, rather than contest what's in the will. My idea was, let's just settle this and move on. Problem there is that the arbitrators of the will were supposed to take it through fruition, have now disappeared or died or whatever. Some of the benefactors, in fact, most of the benefactors have died. So now we are adding in their estates into the situation. And my lawyer has been going through this since about 2010, somewhere around there. And she has taken it to the point where now my grandfather's will is attached to my father's will, who has also died, and I am now the executor of my father's will.
Right.
So that's where we stand, is trying to move this thing forward. We're now at the position, I guess, where we're trying to find two people that can say that my family has owned this land over 30 years now. 59 to now is definitely over 30 years. But Jamaicans are somewhat reluctant to get involved, and I understand why, get involved in land disputes. Okay, but reality of it is there's no dispute in the family. All right, we just simply want to get this thing over and done with. And my lawyer has now asked me to, I think we found two people. So it's just a matter of them giving a affidavits in front of the justice of the peace, and then we can move forward on that. And that's basically where we are today. It's just the amount of time that it's taken to get this thing.
And who's in possession of the land, Harvey? Who's in
right
possession?
Now,
Yeah.
one of my aunts and I are the people paying the taxes on the land.
And is your aunt in possession, or do you have a tenant in possession?
There is an aunt on the property and there is a tenant on the property.
Okay.
All right. I guess the fear right now is because there's no one in real possession of the property. There's a potential for somebody to come along and try and capture it.
Right.
And I think that's what my lawyer is trying to avoid right now.
Right. Stacey, would you want to?
So that's where we're at.
Sure. So you said you have your aunt and a tenant on the property. Are they living there?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have your aunt and the tenant on the property, I don't foresee any trespassers, trying to capture the property if someone is already in possession and is occupying the land. So I think the executors that are administering the estate, they would be the ones to apply to register the land and obtain title.
Yeah. So,
Okay, we're online still so far. The other executors of my grandfather's will are either dead or somewhere else but Jamaica. Nobody can track them down.
you mentioned the declaration that the affidavit to prove the chain of ownership, and I'm wondering if what your attorney may be doing is making an application for adverse possession.
Correct.
And whether that had been discussed, because that's also an option. What we find is where the chain of ownership has become complicated, but we do know that the parties seeking to claim a right have in fact a legal interest. Sometimes one approach is to leapfrog all that administrative complication of probate and finding executors and go straight to an application for adverse possession. So while you may not be an adverse possessor, you're using the provisions that the law allows and provides to adverse possessions to stand in the same shoes, so to speak, of an adverse possession and fast track your claim to ownership. So I'm wondering if, having asked for persons in the community, neighbors, to identify and confirm the family history, whether that's one option, or whether, and this is where it may arise, I'm not sure, is there a registered title for the land, or was it a common law title?
No, there's a registered title, and that's another complication, of course. My grandfather's name was...
So the will has yet to be probated, but you have all the documentation, you believe, in order to move directly to the probate application.
Well, adverse possession, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're going by way of adverse possession, as Robert mentioned, there would be no need to administer the estate, because you would be claiming an interest by way of trespass.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't be claiming an interest pursuant to your chain of survival or succession.
Yeah, so you know, I believe it's fair to say either option could be a viable option, and your attorney seems to have been able to move the process ahead, certainly from where it had been before, resolving the issues in relation to both testators having passed, which is not uncommon. You find situations where you have a third generation. So the original will of a grandfather not being probated, but that will speaks to the passing of property to beneficiaries, and then those beneficiaries passing, and then, as in your instance, a grandchild coming to the fore to settle the estate. So there is a process of dealing with the duplicate or successive chain of benefits passed by way of each will, where both wills are probated. We can skip that chain, as we just mentioned, using the adverse possession law. But also in your instance, there was some complication, it would seem, by way of your father contesting his father's will, which would have brought the matter into contention for so long. You said since 1959. Now, how much land is this, Harvey?
3.5 acres.
Now, what is your intention once that land, once title has been transferred? You plan on subdividing it? Will the
Exactly.
family? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. My job, my intention is simply to move it through the courts, get approval that we can subdivide, and everybody go on, live their lives happily ever after. Sounds fairy tale, but that is my option.
It's not unusual, by the way, just so that you can feel more reassured. So what you would be doing is once title has transferred and perhaps simultaneously, is getting a surveyor to prepare a plan, and that plan should outline the intention for the subdivision. So you would need to get a subdivision plan showing the parcels as you would want them divided, and that should mirror how the new titles would be splintered and issued to the other beneficiaries. So that process,
That's the plan.
that could be an additional year, perhaps. At the shortest, it could be a year and a half. So you're almost there. So hang in there. And, you know, I'm glad to know that your attorney has been able to take the process this far.
She's really done a great job.
Well, fantastic. We're happy when we hear good stories about our colleagues.
Yeah.
So that's good. Stacey, you had anything to add?
No, I think we covered everything. Harvey, unless Harvey has any further questions.
No, I think things are progressing as they should, and it's just the timing. You know, two people have died. Well, more than two people, but the two main characters have passed away, and we're into a third generation right now. So hopefully my health will hold out before the end of this. My health will continue when this does end.
Well, I'm pretty hopeful, and it is happy to hear that you're at the end of the process. I think the difficulties and challenges are behind, and you know,
Yeah.
I'm happy and glad you shared your story, because it's not unusual. And in fact, in this instance, we not only had one will, we had two wills. In many instances,
That's
there
correct.
is no will, or we're dealing with land that's unregistered, and that can of itself add more issues. So even in an instance where we have two wills, and clearly, had it not been for your intervention and stepping forward, taking effort, spending the time and putting the resources to have this resolved, it could have just simply remained unattended, and certainly your concern could materialize where persons understand that persons with an interest live outside Jamaica, and then before you know it, persons trespass, enter into possession, and you're unable to displace them. And they, in their wisdom, apply for adverse possession and gain good title to the land. So
Right.
I think it's commendable that you've taken an interest, you've, come back to Jamaica to have this sorted. And I'd like us to use this as an example to many of our viewers and listeners that, the law says you must not sleep on your rights. And if you sleep on them, someone can easily come and displace those rights. So it always, particularly with persons living outside of Jamaica, someone has to make that sacrifice and really come on island and take the bull by the horn. So I think what you've done is commendable.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share this story.
Thanks, Harvey. It's from this sharing that our viewers learn, and we're able to impart and give input on ways to resolve similar issues. So thanks again. Thanks for being with us, and all the best from both myself, Stacy, Home and Away Jamaica. Until next time.
TV, bam bam, on the street, bam bam.